Okay, welcome to Lab 14. Question 1A. The marginal cost is lowest in stage 2 because even though there are many firms still in the industry, they are producing less, which then reduces the marginal cost. 1B. Local pizza shops will begin making buy one get one free offers in stage 2 because price is lower in the short run after a fall in demand. This form of advertising basically repackages the price cut into something more appealing to customers. C. Price is never greater than the average cost in this market. In stage 2, price is less than the average cost, and in stages 1 and 3, the price is equal to the average cost. D. Profits are never positive. They are negative in stage 2 and 0 in stages 1 and 3. And then for E, firms will leave in the long run, and remaining firms will go back to running their shops as they did before. Question 2. If carpet became even less popular than it is today, the price will rise since the demand is falling in a decreasing cost industry. Because it is expensive to have only a few carpet manufacturers, all scale efficiencies in society will be lost, which will push up average cost when the scale is small.
For question 3, part A, the price of the 50-inch LCD TVs will be $600. Since if the average cost drops to $600, the price will drop to the point that matches the average cost, that the manufacturers will be making zero profits. For part B, the price of the 64 gigabyte flash drives will drop to $4 for the same reasons as in for part A. For part C, the price will rise in the short term, but will return back to the average cost due to the expansion of old firms and the entry of new firms that will be producing these goods. So, and for part D, because of this, demand has no effect on the price in the long term of constant cost industries. However, it will affect the quantity of products produced. And for part E, consumers will be getting all the benefits since firms will continue to enter the industry as long as profits are positive. The amount of profit the firms earn and how long they will earn these profits depend on their innovation. Therefore, consumers will benefit from innovative profits at reasonable prices.
For question 4, it talks about how in 1995, 80% of donut shops in California were owned by Cambodian immigrants. So for part A, when it asks which group, refugees or existing residents, was Noi more likely to hire from, and this would be other Cambodian refugees, because he spoke their language, it was easier to communicate, increasing the efficiency of his stores. For part B, this would make it more likely because Cambodians working would realize the same thing as Noi, that opening their own stores is going to be very profitable, so they'll open their own stores, repeating the cycle. And then for part C, it does encourage this virtuous cycle of Cambodian-owned donut shops because they would hire Cambodian workers to communicate with them easily, and then some of these workers would go on to start their own donut shops, repeating the cycle. For part D, this is a decreasing cost industry because more Cambodians are getting into the industry, driving down the prices of being an owner. And then for part E, on the next slide, there's going to be a diminishing return on the decreasing cost to start a business because at some point the amount of donut shops is enough to supply the population's demand, thereby causing the donut store openings to decrease. And after that point, the donut shops probably went back to having an increasing cost structure since that is the norm for most of the economy. For question 5, part A, both of the economists could be true because they aren't talking about things that are directly related. The cost of one unit could definitely be higher than the sale price, causing the business to sell at a loss. And the revenue from one extra unit could also cover the loss in profit the loss of the company created by the previous units. But consultant 2, so part B, consultant 2 doesn't take into account the cost of producing that new unit. So there's really only one way to move back to profitability, which is to cut the production of the units to reduce costs.
For question 6, part A, we are asked to calculate the profits made by each of these winemakers. So subtracting the revenue from the total cost, we see that Paulette made a loss of 10,000, Camille made a loss of 70,000, and Hortense made a loss of 250,000. For part B, we are asked which of these women, if any of them, earned a profit. And looking at the values shown in part A, you can see that none of them earned a profit and they all made losses. Then for part C, we are asked to say which of these wineries should stay in business in the short run and who should shut down. Paulette and Camille should stay in business while Hortense should shut down. And for part D, we are asked to fill in the blank as say even if the profit is negative, if the revenue is greater than the variable costs, then it's best to stay open. And going back to part B, seeing that the revenue that Hortense's revenue was the only one that was less than her variable cost, it would make sense that hers was the only one that her business is the only one that would have to shut down in the short run. And then for part E, for which of these wineries, if any, is the price greater than the average total cost? And that is not the case in any of the wineries, as the price is the average revenue, and the average total cost is going to be greater than the average revenue if the total cost is greater than the total revenue, which is the case in all 3 wineries. So thank you. This has been our lab, and we appreciate you for listening.